What is going on, everyone? Welcome to yet again another episode of the Pivot Mindset Podcast. As always, I'm super excited to have you joining us for another episode. We are now on episode 8. I believe I talked about it in our last podcast, but most podcasts and platforms don't get past 7 episodes. So the fact that we are on 8 means that we are in the top half of all podcasts that are out there. But that doesn't come without you guys. It doesn't come without the listeners and those that have continually downloaded this podcast, that have left rating, reviews, and feedback and messaged me, whether that be on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube. So I want to first thank you. I want to thank you for being a loyal listener, being a loyal subscriber to the podcast. And as you guys continue to share our messaging and share and talk about it with other people, obviously, that piques interest from others. And so we really appreciate all the support as well as the continued sharing of our podcast and what we're doing here with the Pivot Mindset Podcast. So, man, I've got a really, really interesting topic today, something that I'm going to just be honest, I personally struggle quite a bit with. So, and I think this is so important to anyone who, whether that be an entrepreneur or high-level thinker or people that always are striving to get better or to be better at something. It can be very challenging sometimes to have a continual practice of gratitude. And so for today's topic, I want to dive really deep into what gratitude is. And for me, like I said, this is personally a challenging piece for me because I'm always looking at the next thing and I'm always focused on how I can get better. And sometimes that means that I get discontent with what I currently have. And as a result, I'm not grateful for that thing. And so I think when it comes to pivoting our mindset and being intentional about making life's pivots, because we know that here that life is all about the pivots, and those who decide to make the pivots decide to become successful. And a piece of pivoting your mindset is being grateful. And as we are preparing for Thanksgiving time, and a lot of us are traveling this year, and COVID was or things were very different last year with COVID and all the effects and impacts from that. And so I know a lot of people are in the U.S. at least are preparing to hang out with family in the season, in the spirit of Thanksgiving. And so to me, what better way to bring in Thanksgiving than to set a continual practice of, especially for this week, of finding things to be grateful for. And I know that it's important to always be searching for things to be thankful and grateful for. And this is important because what you focus on in your life is what you get. And the thing about our focus is our mind, our brain has this way of always finding negative things to bring up in our lives. See, the truth is that your brain is created to be negative, right? Being negative is actually the default emotion for humans. And this is because our brain is always in problem-solving mode. It's a problem-solving device. It's always looking for a problem to solve, whether that be a problem in yourself, whether that be a problem in other people, a problem with the organization you may work for, or the business that you're a part of, or the church you may go to. We're always looking for problems. Like, it's so easy for problems to surface up in our minds because that's what our brain is doing. And your brain, it does not care about happiness, success, love, fulfillment, or money. It cares about none of those things. The only thing that your brain cares about is solving the problem. And so it will look past all of the things that are going well in your life to search for the one thing that's not going right. It will look past all of your successes, all of your accomplishments, everything going good in your life, everyone being healthy around you, everyone having whatever that level of success is for them. It'll look past all of that stuff, and it'll focus on the one small thing that nobody's even looking at. And if you are listening to this, this is something that, like I said, for me personally, I know I battle with, is that I can have so many things going right in my life, so many things going well, but my brain, for whatever reason, wants to always focus on what's not working, what's not going well, what's not happening for me, or that I think. And so, but it's doing this because your brain is all about survival. And the challenging part about this is, though the positive part is that it's always trying to help you survive, it's using that fight or flight responses that we talked about in a few previous episodes. But it also can be a torturing device. Because if you let it, your mind can always keep you in this state of suffering. It can keep you in a position that you're always thinking about what's wrong with you, what's wrong with the world, what's wrong with what I see on TV, what's wrong in social media, etc. It can keep you always in this continual state of suffering. And so it is super important, if we want to live a pivoted mindset, if we want to live a pivoted life, we have to know that if one of the first most important things it starts with is being more grateful and practicing gratitude. And so if you're anything like me, gratitude can be a difficult topic for people who are always striving, right? Always striving to get better. And as I mentioned, the striving to get better is often associated with the dissatisfaction of where you currently are. But there's a spoiler alert, is that that you can be profoundly grateful for where you are as well as wanting better. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. You don't necessarily have to not be grateful for where you are to be thankful on where you're trying to get. And so as we get close to Thanksgiving, I could think of a better time to be more reflective and to be more still and who we are and the kind of lives that we've built and the things that are going on around us, and to be able to take a moment, block out a lot of the distractions that may be around you, or, you know, if you're driving, you got a moment to just be able to focus and get clear. But I want you to begin to ask yourself these questions. How can you choose today to be more grateful for what you have been through? How can you set a record of gratitude today? What do you need to do to be as grateful as you've ever been? I want to set some intentionality behind this episode on being extremely grateful, being more grateful than you've ever been before. How can you make this day, out of every day you've ever lived on the planet, this day the most grateful day that you've ever experienced? And see, because gratitude, right, is the quality of being thankful. It's the readiness to show appreciation for and to return kindness. And often we need to be more kind to ourselves, and we are the first person that we can be more grateful for. How do you be more grateful for the life that you've created out of and in spite of what you've been through? In spite of all the mistakes, mishaps, the cards you were dealt, the people that have done bad things to you, the decisions that you've made that were poor decisions, how can you make today the most grateful day that you've ever experienced? And a part of this is asking yourself the right questions. We live a life of asking ourselves the wrong questions. The questions like, what happens if this fails? Or why can't I be successful at this? Or, you know, how are people going to look at me if I don't accomplish whatever it is? We often ask ourselves the wrong questions. And I want to challenge you today to start thinking about the kinds of questions that you're asking yourself, because I tell you that if you start asking yourself good, positive questions, you will find it easy to be proactive about showing gratitude in your life. And so I just doing some research here, being positive is more, and having gratitude is more than just a positive emotion. It's being more grateful can literally have the ability to change the trajectory of your life. Listen to this. So according to the Harvard Health Publishing, in positive psychological research, gratitude is strongly and consistently associated with greater happiness. Gratitude helps people feel more positive emotions, relish good experiences, improve their health, and deal with adversity and build stronger relationships. Gratitude has so much power to help you go through difficult times in life with a much better perspective, not because you're naive or have a naivety or ignorance to bad or to lack, but it's about what you decide to focus on. You see, two psychologists, Dr. Robert Emmons of the University of California, UC Davis, and Dr. Michael McCullough of the University of Miami have done much of the research on gratitude. In one study that asked all participants to write a few sentences each week, focusing on particular topics. One group who wrote about things they were grateful for that had occurred during the week. The second group wrote about daily irritations and things that bothered them and things that they were displeased with. And then the third group they had to write about events that had affected them. In the third group, there was no emphasis on the things that were being positive or negative. And after 10 weeks, those who wrote about gratitude were more optimistic and felt better about their lives. And surprisingly, they even exercised more, had fewer visits to physicians, and those who had focused on the sources of aggravation. When you focused and set your intention on things to be grateful for and things that are positive, everything around you gets impacted. Your mind is so powerful. Your mind is the filter in which everything in your life gets impacted by. And if you can find a way to program your mind to be more positive, you as a result will program a more positive life, and you will look at experiences in a positive way. See, gratitude is a way for people to appreciate, the article goes on to say that gratitude is a way for people to appreciate what they have instead of always reaching for something new in the hopes that it will make them happier, or thinking they can't feel satisfied until every physical or material need is met. You see, gratitude has helps people refocus on what they have instead of what they lack. And although it may feel counterproductive at first, this mental state grows stronger with use and practice. You see, you may not start off being grateful and it being an easy process for you. You may have to set some intentionality and put some standards in your life that you're going to be grateful no matter what happens, no matter who happens, no matter what impacts will come towards your way. You have to make it a standard and a guideline for yourself that you're going to find things to be more grateful for. You see, gratitude and thankfulness has a way of shifting your focus off of your problems, and it shifts from your issues and failures, and it places your focus on what's good. You see, and gratitude is not ignorance. I want to make sure that I clarify this. Gratitude is not a state of ignorance, or it's not a state that you don't or not aware of the problems and everything that's happening. In fact, gratitude is a heightened awareness of everything that's happening around you, but it's a clear focus and a clear intentionality that's set, that I am going to choose and decide. There's a choice. I'm going to decide to focus and be grateful for things that are in my life and what has happened for me and what's happening to me, right? And so Eckhart Tolle says this. He says, acknowledging the good that you already have in your life is the foundation for all abundance. Acknowledging the good, not that you are going to have, but acknowledging the good that you already have in your life is the foundation of all abundance. It's about being grateful for what you currently have. And if you're grateful for over little, the Bible says that God will make you ruler over much. And it's about, how do we look at where we currently are? How do we look at the life that we live? How do we look at all of our summation of experiences and just find a way to be more grateful, right? The Bible says this in Philippians 4:8. It says, finally, brethren and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there are any excellence and if any worthy of praise, think about these things. Thinking about the good parts, thinking about the parts that should be celebrated, thinking about the positive things. Whatever you decide to set your focus on is the thing that will consume your life. Positivity is not about living a perfect life or nothing bad ever happening. It's about being committed to only thinking and breaking out the good parts. Just setting your intention that, you know what? It doesn't matter what actually happens to my life. It doesn't matter who comes in and out. It doesn't matter if I get the promotion or not. It doesn't matter if my business is successful or not. It doesn't matter if I find the perfect spouse or that my children get perfect grades in school. None of that actually matters. What matters first is that you have gratitude over where you currently are. You see, and there's something, and this is I think this is going to be the changing moment for you. So there is this thing called the reticular activating system. Your brain has it. It's a way of filtering out like things that are not important. And so your reticular activating system, it has this way of processing thousands and thousands of thoughts that flow through your brain, and it's able to simplify and only give you, only thing that flows through are the thoughts that's important. And so you see this, if you've ever purchased a car before, right? And you may have done some research. You may have Googled the car. You may have looked at some reviews and things like that online. And then let's say you purchased the car. After you purchase that car, and I've had this happen so many times, so I know what this is like. After you purchase that car, you begin to see that car on the road so much, right? You've never seen it as much as you do now that you actually own the car. And that's not because when you bought your car, tons of other people bought a car just like yours at the same time. What brings that to the front for you and what helps you, the reason why you see those cars more is because your reticular activating system, and because now your brain has focused on that kind of car. And so every time you see it on the road now, or every time one is on the road, now you see it. It's not that there were less before. It's just you weren't focused on that particular car. You weren't focused on that actual vehicle. And this is the same thing that is true when it comes to positivity, when it comes to being grateful and having gratitude. When we want to be more grateful and we want to practice more gratitude in our lives, if we set our intentionality on it and if we focus on it, you will begin to build a life of being more grateful. You will begin to build a life of being more positive. You see, nothing good comes from a negative Nancy. Nobody even wants to be around you when you're negative. I cannot stand people that are negative. And when you're negative, you detract so many positive things, and there's so much better, so many things that come out of positivity. I know personally, my creativity gets swamped, like it gets drained when I'm around pessimistic and negative people. But when I'm around positive people, people that think from a level of abundance and not a level of lack, when they think that the sky is the limit and that there's no boundaries and there's nothing that I can do and there's nothing that we can do, and that we've got the ability to accomplish anything that we want. When I'm around people like that, my creativity is at an all-time high. I'm more optimistic. I'm more confident in who I am. I'm more assured in my ability to accomplish and attain whatever it is that I want in life. But it starts with being positive. It starts also with being grateful. And if you can find a way and set your intentionality, set your reticular activating system to be more focused on positive things and being more focused on finding things to be grateful for, as a result, your life will be impacted for the better. You see, because like your floor can be someone else's ceiling. Like where you are right now can be where someone is aspiring to be. And so everything that you have to someone else can be a dream. Your small house may be someone's goal, right? You may trying to figure out how you can get to the next house or the bigger house, or it's a nuisance for you and it's annoying and you want to get out of that small house. But to some people that don't have a house or that aren't sleeping in a house or that may be homeless, they will take that house and be so grateful and so thankful for it. So your floor is always someone else's ceiling. And this is, to me, a centralized theme, because when I continue to think on that, it helps me to identify even more things in my life to be grateful for. And so before we leave this episode here, I want to leave you with 4 tips to incorporating more gratitude in your life. Here's 4 things that you could start to incorporate today to helping you be more grateful. Because again, if you're more grateful, you create a more positive life. If you're more grateful, you attract things and attract the right kinds of people. You live a much happier life because your brain wants to torture you. Your brain wants to tell you everything that is wrong with you, and it wants to tell you everything that is wrong with your life and around and with everybody. But if you can set that intention on your mind and your brain that you're going to only focus on the good thing, then as a result, your brain is going to stop torturing you and it's actually going to start blessing you. It's going to actually start looking for the positive things. And so tip number 1, and this is something that I think could be super valuable, is that you could keep a gratitude journal and set a goal of over the next 30 days to always write what you are grateful for. This does not have to be elaborate. This does not have to be you writing pages and pages about what you're grateful for. I do this every day, actually. It's a part of my task journal. So I've got a task, a to-do list, and it helps me to get all of my thoughts, everything that's in my head and on paper. And at the top of that list, or at the top of the task list in the journal, it asked, what are you grateful for? And every day before I start filling out my to-do list, I have to first like write what I'm grateful for. And I didn't necessarily know how impactful that would be for my day, especially just starting out the day, especially when I'm getting my day started and I sit down and I just take a moment of stillness and I write what I'm grateful for before I start writing my to-do list. When I'm writing my to-dos, those to-dos don't feel like chores anymore because I've approached it with this grateful mindset. This is something that I personally work with all of my coaching clients on, is before we ever do a coaching session, the first question, or before we ever dive in, the first question I ask them at the top of every single session that we do is, give me the things that you're grateful for. Because when we shift our focus, when we shift our mind in that way, it begins to have us, it heightens our thoughts and it heightens how we think about where we are and who we are. And so get yourself a journal. It could be simple. It doesn't have to be an expensive or elaborate journal. Heck, you could put it on note cards or something like that. You could put it on, cue cards, whatever. Just find you a way to communicate or to document what you're grateful for over the next 30 days. Number 2, be thankful for the extremely small things. Make it a challenge for yourself to look at the most small things to you to be grateful for. Being grateful the fact that you have 2 eyes that work, because there's people that don't. Being grateful for just your ability to breathe and to be able to touch and to taste and to smell and your senses. The things that can just be small and minute to you. Being grateful for the ability to write with a pen or a pencil, or the ability to listen to this podcast, whether it's listening through some headphones or in a car of yours or at a computer, like just to have the technology to be able to listen and get a sharper mind, right? Just finding things, especially even the extremely small things, super easy to do, but finding, and that's number 2, being thankful for the extremely small things. Number 3, build the habit that when something bad happens, that you immediately, without fail, that you immediately think on what you're grateful for in that moment. If something bad happens, how can you begin to program your mind that in the instant that bad thing happens, that your mind automatically looks at the good in all of that, or looks at the things that can pull out that can be good in all of that. And so, because again, gratitude is not something that just is going to naturally happen. You're going to have to be intentional about being grateful. And so start thinking, anything that bad happens, all right, out of that, what can I pull out that can be helpful? What can I pull out that I'm grateful for? What is the good in this? How can I turn this to good? What happens as a result that can be positive for me, little or big? And then 4, and I think this one's super important, is spending more time in worship to God. You see, worship is powerful because what I've come to realize is that many of us, and this may be Western culture as well, but many of us are so obsessed with ourselves. And when we are so obsessed with ourselves, we get obsessed and overanalyze our problems and our issues. And if we are not careful, we can overinflate who we are and what's happening to or for us as a result. But when you take a moment to worship God, and if that's starting your day off or ending your day, whenever you could find time, in the car, whenever, and if you take a moment, to worship God, what you begin to do in that moment is you make you small and you make God big. And by making you small, you make your problem small. And by you making God big, you make his ability to help you with those problems extremely big. And you highlight his strengths and his abilities to be all powerful and all knowing and all helping in your life, right? And so spending time in worship is one of the most important things that you can do to be grateful, because it takes that self-obsession that you have with yourself, that the obsession that you have with your problems or with the life that you've built, and it turns that volume down, that voice that's in your head. It turns that limiting belief, self-sabotaging voice. It turns that voice down, and it turns up the voice of provision. It turns up the voice of obedience. It turns up the voice of abundance. It turns up the voice of the God that can do all things but fail, the one that can provide, the one that can to cause miracles. It turns up that voice in your life. And so I'm gonna leave this here, and to summarize this, guys, what you are grateful for And when you are grateful, you are fixing your focus on the good things, the positive things in your life. And when you fix your focus on one thing, the other things as a result just start to blend away. They get out of focus. If you've ever seen that effect in a camera, if you can set a focus on one thing, if you're watching this actually on YouTube right now, you'll see the focus is on me, but the background is blended out. It's blurred out. That's exactly what happens in your life. When you focus on the good things, the other things really just don't matter anymore. They just get blurry and they stop being in your view. They stop being so front and center in your life. And so listen, guys, as we prepare for Thanksgiving, let's continue to just remember the things that we should and can be grateful for. Know that life is all about the pivots and those who decide to make the pivots, whether it's a pivot mentally or a pivot economically, wherever, those who decide to make those pivots decide to become successful. Thank you for checking out this episode. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.